officially day 7 of Oilers main camp here. Pleased to be joined by a voice of your Edmonton Oilers from the Oilers Radio Network, Bob Stauffer. And Bob, we're a week into this, and today we got a glimpse of a full practice, a second group on the ice right now with primarily NHL guys, and the lines are exactly as we expected.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think all season, all off season, once the free agency period took place, and then once the Oilers made the trade for Pujols and it didn't match on Dylan Holloway, I think we had a pretty good idea that the plan of attack was that you'd keep Connor McDavid with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman, that Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson would have an opportunity with Leon Draisaitl, that they keep the line together that was so good in the playoffs with Adam Henrique and Matthias Janmark on the left side and Connor Brown, and that Derek Ryan would likely be centering Vasily Pujols and Corey Perry. So those lines are together. And the D pairings are consistent with what we've seen through training camp, where you've got Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, which from an analytics perspective, Tony, was number 1 or number 2 in virtually every advanced metric last year. Darnell Nurse continues to play with Ty Emerson. We've not seen Nurse in a preseason game so far. I do sense that there's some confidence in Emerson within the context of the Edmonton Oilers organization. And then you've got Brett Kulak along with Josh Brown, and then, a guy that's in on a PTO but with lots of NHL experience, Travis Dermott, playing with Troy Stetcher.
And as Bob alluded to, Darnell Nurse has not suited up for an Oilers game yet in the preseason. Head coach Chris Knobloch said on the first day of training camp that he's going to likely miss the first 4 or 5 games, but will be playing in the last couple of games in the preseason. But let's stay on the back end right now, because on the right side, there's still an opportunity for some players to take a spot. And also on that fourth line, the competition is still wide open, Bob.
Yeah, I do. It's interesting. I mean, we've got Mike Hoffman here on a PTO, but he's a winger, and he's a complementary scoring winger, and he was with the really what amounted to the sort of the Bakersfield group in the earlier session today. I do think that, we've got probably 4 players that are auditioning to get that fourth line center position. Now, Derek Ryan can play right winger or center. He's a veteran. He's been with the club the last couple of years. I think he's probably got his nose out in front right now. Lane Peterson had a pretty good close to last year in the American Hockey League. James Hamblin dealt with some core issues last year that knocked him out of the lineup a bit. And then the wild card is Noah Philp, because he didn't play last year. Yeah, I think he's looked okay in the first 2 preseason games. So that's the fourth line center position. As for the right side of the defense, again, I think Emerson, Chris Knobloch had Ty Emerson in Hartford in the American League, and I just get the impression that there's some confidence there. And then what happens between Brown and Stetcher potentially? And I guess some people say, well, are you ruling out a guy like Max Swanner? At this time, yes. I mean, he's a longer shot, probably a year to year and a half away from really getting a chance. I mean, he's still a young kid. So
and he's still got to fill out a little bit. It's still 183 pounds.
Yeah, there's, at the end of the day, I think we might be watching this right side of the defense. I think this might be an ongoing storyline. We know that the Oilers, Vander Kane, 5 to 6 months is what the organization announced. The Oilers, in theory, can accrue even with Kane on their active roster. And does that money get applied to right side defense at some point during the season via trade? I think that's going to be one of those storylines we're going to be following.
All right, Bob, 1 week in, has anybody stood out for you on the Oilers?
Well, I watched about half the game last night from Calgary.
Yeah.
It was not a good night, obviously, for the Oilers, and then we were here, you and me were here for the game. And I'd say I thought Matt Savoy had a good game last night in Calgary. He's very competitive, won a lot of puck battles. Didn't mind didn't mind Ben Gleason as well. I thought that, he's got a bit of a swashbuckling style. He looked pretty good in preseason last year as well. So those are 2 of the players I like to. The fact that Sam O'Reilly's still here, of course, he had a real strong game here against the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday night. So I want to highlight him for a second, because I think there's I like right shot centers, and the Oilers need them. When you have an organization, Tony, you know this, you got McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Henrique that are all left shots that can play center. You got to find a way to get a right shot option down the road. That's why Philp and Peterson and Derek Ryan are all in the mix there on that fourth line. And 2 years from now, we might be looking at Sam O'Reilly. As for in the building here last night, I mean, you expect McDavid and Draisaitl to make plays, and they did. And hey, give the credit to Devin. Goaltender
He was excellent.
He was excellent. Like, it probably was a 7-6 game.
Yeah.
There were too many giveaways for Edmonton and some sequences that they like to have back. But I think it's a little early at this stage to truly, have a hardcore evaluation of where sort of bubble guys are. And I think as we go further along in the preseason, we're going to get a better handle of that.